Hello, and welcome back to another Full House workshop. I'm Leah, head editor.
And hi, I'm Kinnison.
Lovely to have you. This workshop is going to be based around generating material. We've got some fun writing prompts, and it's all going to be about creating some fun pieces. So let's just run through some of the sort of house rules. So this is a recording as a duplicate of what we'll be doing as a live session. So feel free to pause, rewind, go back and have repeat any of the exercises or take as much time as you need. So these exercises are just guides. You can choose to spend your time in the session however you please. If you're really enjoying the first one, feel free to spend a bit longer than we're suggesting. So the session will run for about an hour. And we'll have some time in between you'll have some time to sort of think about things and sort of see how you're finding the exercises, and feel free to share any work with us afterwards as well if you want to. Okay, so we always like to start our workshops by just warming up. So it would be great here if you could just close your eyes 30 seconds and just do some breathing. So 30 seconds, just relax. Okay, and open your eyes. 30 seconds is up. We're now gonna do some loosening of our fingers. So let's get loose, let's get nice and relaxed. I don't know what you've come from today, but if you've had a busy day like me and you're needing to just loosen up, go for it. And I'm gonna give you your first warm-up exercise to get in the writing mood. So, when was the last time that you smiled? Write about what was happening around you. So, I'm going to give you 3 minutes here just to get some thoughts down on the paper, get your mind racing. So, when was the last time that you smiled? Go. Okay, so hopefully you're nice and warmed up there. And we're going to get diving in straight away to our first writing exercise.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is the exercises are based around the syntax and space. So these are not something I really think about much when I'm writing, but I think when I read a piece that really makes use of syntax and space, it can really stand out, or it can make a piece really sing. So I thought we could spend some time today playing around with some aspects of syntax and space to get a feel for how it could work for us in our pieces. So the very first thing we're going to do, though, is rewrite. So I've given you an image there. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, but you don't have to use the image. The image can be used as a prompt, but you can just use whatever you want. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and I just want you to write. So free write. Don't stop for a whole 5 minutes. Just keep writing. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make any sense. Just go. Be free. For those who can't see the image is of an ice sheet. And it looks quite dry. There's some greenery down the bottom, and the rocks have black and white stripes through it, and the ice sheet itself has horizontal black stripes through it, and it's a really pale blue color against a sky that has lots of clouds. There's kind of a darker purplier color. Right, so that's the end of your 5 minutes. Okay, so just keep that with you, and we're going to do some exercises. So get a new sheet of paper, but keep that free write nearby. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is play around with syntax. Now I'm only going to give you 3 minutes to do this. So what I want you to do is take your free write that you just did. I want you to circle 3 words, the 3 words that really stand out to you that you like the most, okay? And then I want you to do a whole bunch of different things with them. So anagram them, okay? So I've anagrammed here, choose 3 words. So I've got cheesecloth and clothes horse out of that. Get as many words out of those 3 words that you can. Think about creating new compounds, just words you're making up. So word choose, 3 choose, whatever, okay? Just take your 3 words and compound them as many different ways as you possibly can. They don't have to make sense. Pull them apart, okay? So, you know, look at their little individual components and smash them together. Make up new words. It's okay to make up new words. And then also exhaust them. So can you write, you know, every single synonym for each of them? You could think about their antonyms. Just write as many associated words with those 3 words as possible. Okay, but you've only got 3 minutes, so you're going to have to be fast. So time starts now. Okay, so you should have your 3 words, you should have your original free write, and now you should have a whole set of new words that are associated with those 3 words. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to our original free write, okay, and then instead of choosing some words you like, I want you to choose your favorite sentence. Okay, now once you've got that sentence, I want you to rewrite that sentence using the exact same words in as many different ways as you can. Okay, so I've given you an example here. I took the sentence, use the same words in different orders, and you can see I've messed around with the orders. So they're exact same words, but just in a different order. And I've produced 3 new sentences from that. And hopefully you'll get many, many more from your favorite sentence. You've got 3 minutes, go. Okay, so hopefully you now have your favorite sentence written in lots of different ways. So we're going to do something else now. We're going to go back to our original free write piece and we're going to play around with punctuation. So I'd like you to use quotation marks around some words going down the page. Actually, maybe it more like this for you, going down the page. Okay, so just, take, say, the top left-hand corner, the first 3 words or the first word, and make that into dialogue, and then kind of work your way diagonally down the page. And then I want you to, once you've done that with the quotation marks, I want you to go through and I want you to put brackets around groups of words that kind of work in that S pattern. Okay, don't worry about the fact if it doesn't make sense. We're just shoving punctuation in, following these patterns. And then once you've done that, I want you to use this kind of other curvy way over here, and every few words along that curve stick some question marks and exclamation marks. So what you're going to have is you're going to have a whole bunch of punctuation shoved in random spots following those patterns. It doesn't have to make sense, but I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do it. Go. Okay, so now that you've got your 3 words and you've got your 1 sentence many different ways, and now you've got your original free write piece with random punctuation shoved in following those patterns, we're going to play with space. So take any elements of anything that you've just created and arrange them on a new blank page, okay? But I want you to think carefully about where you're putting them. Play around with how words or lines are connected or disconnected. Play with the direction of the words. You know, I've got some spirals there. I've got some things on the horizontal. I've got some things on the vertical. Play around with space, okay? So you can use anything from your free write. You can use anything from your 3 words that you played around with, or any of your sentences, okay? Go. You've got 5 minutes this time. Okay. Now that you're 5 minutes up, how did you go? So I'm interested to know, did you write prose or did you end up writing some poetry? Or did you end up with something a little bit in between? I think what I really like about this exercise, especially where you're taking words and you're really looking at those words, or if you're taking those sentences and thinking about the words in the sentences and then mixing them up around, you really start to get a feel for how the little tiny individual blocks in a sentence really make up that sentence. I think sometimes when we write, if you're a bit of an overwriter, you might end up saying the same thing several times. And I think going back and stripping it down to that one sentence and then thinking about those individual words in that sentence can really give us a nice feel and a nice idea for how those words are working. I think also sometimes we tend to write in kind of the narrator that we have in our head. I don't know about you, but I always have a narrator in my head. But it sometimes means that our writing can come out very samey, kind of the same voice over and over again. So again, thinking about those individual building blocks that build up our words and then our sentences and then the space on the page can really help us open up new avenues in our writing. And at Full House, we absolutely love when people experiment with words and space on the page. And we don't see, I don't feel, enough of it in our submissions, and we would love to see more. So think really carefully about syntax and space the next time you go to write a piece. And if it ends up somewhere between prose and poetry, that doesn't matter. Again, at Full House, we love those things that kind of go in between those lines. So hopefully you had the fun doing the exercise, and we'll move on to the next one.
Okay, so on to exercise 2. We're going to build a breakfast. It's evening here, so I'm not feeling in the breakfast mood. But wherever you are, let's think about breakfast. Maybe you can build tomorrow's breakfast if it's the evening. So let's have a look at what this exercise is about. So when we think about writing, we usually have a combination of bits and bobs going on within our pieces. It's usually like a different combination that ends up building this wonderful piece. And we're going to use that in the idea of a breakfast. So I've got a few elements below, and I want you to pick 3 elements to play around with. So I've got sound patterns, I've got zooming in, zooming out imagery, I've got spaces within the form, I've got speech, I've got point of view, and I've got punctuation. So I want you to have a play around with some of those things. Just pick 3 of them. And I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes here to choose some of those elements. Think about maybe which ones go together, maybe which ones don't go, but you want to go with that. Have a think, plan this breakfast. Okay, so 3 minutes to have a plan. Go. Okay, so hopefully you've chosen those components and let's get ready to put this into practice. So we're going to put them together and we're going to have a piece that plays around with them. So for example, for me, I might have chosen sound patterns, space within the form and speech. I think they're ones that go together quite nicely. I would love to know what your combination is. It doesn't really matter as long as you're excited to experiment with it and have a go. And if you repeat this exercise, you can choose some different combinations and see how they turn out. But these are the things that within your piece you're going to focus on. You might have other elements that sort of come into play, but these are the ones that you're going to sort of use to sort of form the writing. So I'm going to give you 8 minutes here to actually have a go and see how the piece turns out with those being the sort of central focus. And this can be prose, poetry, script, whatever you want to write. Okay, so 8 minutes, have a go. Okay, hopefully you have a delicious piece of writing. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a finished product. There's things that you can obviously go back and tweak, but hopefully that's given you something that you can sort of build a starting block around. Maybe you want to go back in and change some bits, but hopefully that's given you the bones of a really sort of fun, interesting piece. So let's move on to our third exercise.
Okay, so our third and final exercise we're going to look at, I've called Trust Me, I'm Telling Lies. And we're going to look at how sometimes thinking about the opposite of what we're trying to say can really help highlight some images or maybe some connected thoughts that we hadn't really thought about including in our work before. Oops. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to think about a life-changing moment that's happened to you. Okay, so something that, you know, kind of you think is one of those points in, you know, sliding door moments in life where you could have gone one direction, you could have gone another direction, and you chose one way, and it really has, you know, affected your life. Arguably, that's every moment in your entire life, but try and think of the big one, or one or two big ones. What I want you to do is I want you to visualize that life-changing moment. Okay, and I want you to write down 3 things that were in the space that it happened in. I've said the room, but you know, if it happened in a tube station, tell me what's in the tube station, or wherever it happened. Tell me, I want 3 objects that were there. Okay, and then I want you to write down 3 things that were not there. Okay, so 3 minutes to do that. Go. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I want you to choose one of the things that was not in the room. Okay, so you've got 3 that were in, 3 that weren't. So I want you to choose one thing that was not in the room on your list. Okay, I want you to write down 3 facts about it. Okay, so it could have been a pineapple that was not in the room that your life-changing event happened in. And so you would write down 3 facts about it. So it's a fruit, it's yellow, it's spiky. Okay, then I want you to write down 3 lies about it. So it might be your next door neighbor grows them, and they're probably not going to be growing pineapples if they live in Britain. Whatever they are. Okay, so choose one object that was not in the room, write down 3 facts about it and 3 lies about it. 3 minutes, go. Okay, so you've got 6 objects, and now you've got 6 facts about one of the objects that were a lie. So I want you to think about whether or not there was somebody else there. Okay, so I want you to write down 3 things about the person that was there, and then 3 things that are not true about the person that was there. If there was no one else there at that moment, go back and use one of the things in your list of things that were there. Okay, but 3 facts about the person that was there with you and 3 lies about them. 3 minutes, go. Okay, so, oops. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to use all of those things, your facts and your lies, to tell me what happens in your life-changing moment without actually telling me what happened. Okay, so you know it's all about the showing. So use those objects, use those descriptions of that person to tell me what happened in that room. 5 minutes, go. Okay, that's your 5 minutes up. So how did you go? So the reason why I've set this exercise is because I think sometimes when we're writing, we can get really trapped into the concrete images that we feel were the truth and what happened. And, you know, of course, our truth is always very subjective, but I think it can be very hard when we're writing something that is a little bit non-fiction to kind of go away from those facts. But actually, you know, when we're writing, even when we're writing creative non-fictions, it's somehow really helpful to think about things that might not necessarily have been there, but kind of help our narrative a little bit. So it's not really lying, but it's also not telling the truth entirely. And I think that's really important, because I think sometimes we can really narrow our writing if our own personal experience is being put onto the page. I also got you to tell lies, because I think even when you're telling lies, you're going to subconsciously always connect them back to the truth. So even the objects that you picked that were not in the room, you would have picked them because you were thinking about that incident, right? So even if you're including something that is not true, it's always going to be connected to the event that happened, because of the way we work. The two biggest problems we see in submissions is that we get too much telling, or we get too many abstract images. And so the exercise that I made you do here was getting you to think about concrete images while also thinking about the event in your head, and then writing the story without actually telling me what happened. And I think that's sometimes a really good way to kind of find that balance between telling the story straight out, play by play what's happened, or kind of giving me too many abstract images. So if you go back to the original event, and even if you're thinking about things that weren't in the room, just thinking about the room or the event itself can help you form really concrete images. So using concrete details that tie into the story can really help you tell that story. Okay, so that was our final exercise. Leia's now going to do the warm down.
Okay, so let's warm down. We've done some really great work today, lots of exciting writing. We're just going to give you a tiny bit more just for your warm down. I want you to write a list of all of the words you love most. So it should be quite a nice list. Whatever words, they can be long, short, don't have to be related to anything, just a long list of words that you love. Okay, 3 minutes, have a go. Okay, so hopefully you're feeling very happy because you've just written a lovely list of all the words you love most. So save that, make that a piece of, something that you can come back to if you're wanting to grab some words, if you're wanting to put into other pieces. This is something that might be quite a useful sort of document or note to sort of work on in other pieces. So we're just going to do our final piece of work today, just by closing our eyes and breathing. It's been lovely to have you. So let's just relax now. Again, we've done so much hard work. Let's just relax. 30 seconds, go. Okay, and opening our eyes, we're done. You can relax. It's all done now. The workshop is complete. Thank you so much for attending and viewing. So you can find us on Twitter, and you can find everything you need all on our site. That'll be like the PowerPoint, there'll be a transcript. And we also have a link to our Ko-fi if you would like to donate. But thank you so much for coming along. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye all.
See you later.